Let's do a semi-hard segue into the story about Maxine Waters because it's sad funny. It's sad funny. Rep Maxine Waters warns reporter over LA homeless story, "You'll hurt yourself." But the real bit here is that she told homeless people to go home. So let me get there. They say Maxine Waters tried to stop the publication of a news story about about Los Angeles homeless crisis this week, reportedly telling an Los Angeles Times scribe, "You'll hurt yourself and the community trying to put this together." Investigative reporter Connor Sheets detailed a March 25th incident in South LA where hundreds of homeless people tried to obtain Section 8 housing vouchers after being misled by social media rumors. The would-be applicants crashed an event held by nonprofit advocacy group Fathers and Mothers Who Care, which had been meant to help the unhoused obtain emergency shelter. At one point, Waters told the crowd, "I want everybody to go home," triggering an angry response. "We don't got no home. That's why we're here," one member of the crowd yelled back. According to the LA Times, "What home we gonna go to?"
Good for that person.
This is insane. LA is the nightmare dystopia we read about as kids that we were warned about. The politicians yelling at homeless people to go home. The homeless people just everywhere. Skid Row expanding, drugs and feces all over the place. California is a wasteland, man.
Tomorrow, Snopes is going to be like, well, technically, she didn't say which home they should go to. So
the underpass does count.
Exactly.
Seamus.
Yeah, she meant their tent.
She
You know what I love?
She could have been referring to someone else's house.
Here's what I love. I love it when these leftists post photos from like the mountains of California, and they'll say things like, "Those conservatives, smack talking California. This is what it's really like."
If you got money.
Right, exactly. It's like you go to the Palisades and you're looking at the PCH, the Pacific Coast Highway, and you're like, "Look how beautiful this place is." Sure, just like in Elysium. The French-speaking people in their space station, I'm sure they're looking around being like, "What's wrong with our country? Everything's beautiful here where rich people live."
It's like being a multimillionaire receiving experimental treatment for your disease and being like, people claim that our healthcare system isn't good. Like, check this out.
Yeah.
It's just imagine... It's the Hunger Games, man. The people in the Capitol are drinking Ipecac to vomit to keep eating. And they're like, "What's wrong? Everything's great. Life is good, huh?" Mm-hmm. It's like, people are like living in their own waste and taking dumps in the street.
I guess a nice piece of news out of this is Michael Schellenberger, who's been on the show before, is running for governor, California governor. And he's focused heavily on the homeless population and helping clean it up.
Yeah, but, look, as much as I can appreciate it, if somebody wanted to become mayor of a garbage dump, I'm going to be like, "Bro, good luck, I guess."
Yeah, because Rogan, he was on Rogan a couple of days ago, and he said, Rogan's like, "What? Just focus on LA first." And he's like, "LA is like too far gone to start on." He didn't. I don't know if he said too far gone, but he's like, "We'll start small, and then if we can succeed, then we'll go to LA."
It would be. What if he went on Rogan and he was like, "Well, actually, my plan is to segment LA and San Francisco and push them into the Pacific, and then instantly the collective poverty and problems and everything that's wrong, the corruption, will drop dramatically in California." So just
it's like a blood transfusion.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like it's like.
But with people instead of blood.
Lopping off the malignancy.
Yeah, exactly.
We can also build islands.
It's so rich, too, because it's the people from California who have these really big, great, creative ideas about how we can fix the rest of the country, even though nowhere is really quite as bad as California
I think
is
it's
right
too
now.
big.
And, it's also funny because they're constantly complaining about Florida. They're constantly complaining about what goes on in Florida while their state is falling apart. It's like, well, I don't know. DeSantis has not indicated any ambitions to try to change how things are done in California. I'm pretty sure he's just going to let that dumpster fire burn.
We joke about California kicking off LA, but what if Ron DeSantis was like, "We're going to separate Florida from the rest of this country, only by a few hundred feet, so that Florida is sovereign and protected and we don't got to worry."
A moat around
right.
A wall,
full of gators, dude.
Full of
hungry alligators, electric eels,
and he can sell it
piranhas.
as like an alligator sanctuary project.
Yeah.
Please don't feed the alligators. All in
Don't
caps,
do it.
Yeah.
He's done more to conserve.
Please don't feed the alligators.
all in caps.
Yeah.
And then you got to have a wall with a moat with another wall with another moat with another wall. So if you go off the wall, you just fall into the moat.
Yeah.
So this is what's funny because they actually claimed Trump proposed a moat full of alligators, which he clearly didn't do. It's just the funniest. You know
what's an even dumber border security idea? Telling them all that they can get free healthcare if they come here, and like having our politicians argue that we should be giving free services to everyone who crosses the border.
Look at this story with Maxine Waters. A bunch of homeless people were told you could show up And then Maxine Waters just yells at him, tells him to go home.
So she's so I don't know, connected, I guess, from
yelled-
humanity.
She yelled at him. She said, "Excuse me, there's nobody in Washington who works for their people any effing harder than I do. I don't want to hear this.
What?
No, no, no."
Here's the thing.
Maxine, when you're surrounded by homeless people and you yell at them to go home, and then when they get mad, you say, hey, nobody fights harder than me. It's like,
She's like, do you know how hard I have it?
yeah, right.
Do you know how difficult my life is?
I was just seeing. Did you guys see the California is going to start paying everyone $400 rebate tax?
Well, it's about
gas
time.
tax play. They're thinking about it. I mean, talk about it. Just this is another throwing money at the
brilliant
Band-Aid.
idea.
It's about time California spent some
I'm
money.
so concerned for that
Doesn't have-
state. I do think it's too big, and like the Northern California is way different. It's like redwoods and tree. Well, maybe not. I think there are redwoods in NorCal. I haven't been up that far in California, but it's like lush. Down south, it's a desert. They're two
Right.
completely different environments. It
Yeah.
might
Cut
be
in
worth
half.
it.
It's true.
Might be worth
State
it.
of Jefferson or whatever, you know.
That's a proposal. Yeah. New York State, all these bigger states with the majority blue, they're looking to do that.
Let's put all cities in bubbles, and their
Yes.
jurisdiction extends within their city and nothing else.
So, yeah,
That'd
just
make a
it's
lot
a
of
city
problems go away.
state.
That's very.
If you know what's really funny,
economic forum.
yeah, we should abolish states and go county only. Yeah, so everything should be done by county,
Yeah.
because then you'd see how quickly the progressive agenda evaporates. They have highly dense populations of people who are stacked on top of each other in concrete jungles that smell like sour milk, and they all share this similar ideology. And then you look at rural areas, and it's disparate ideologies, differing views in different areas, because people are more spread out.
Yeah, in the city, you smell fumes, carbon monoxide and stuff. You're constantly breathing it in. So no wonder they want a carbon tax and reduce emissions, because that's what.
Well, Ian, I mean, breathing in those toxins, it leads to really good ideas. It leads to you having
Right.
really
Look,
good ideas.
this is the problem with, in my opinion, the majority of Democrats. When I come out to the middle of nowhere and I see like a pig farmer, he's like, "Look, I don't care what you do in the cities, whatever. I raise pigs. My pigs stink. Don't come out here if you don't like the pig stink." And I'm like, I get it. I won't. The city people do two things. They say, "We live in a city. People shouldn't be allowed to make things smell like pig. So we're going to ban pig farming in Utah." And you're like, wait, hold on. That doesn't affect you in any way. You don't live there. And they're like, "Well, I don't want someone raising pigs near me." It's like, bro, no one's raising pigs in New York. Well, we're going to ban raising pigs anyway for the whole nation. That's what they're doing with guns. It's like, Ricky John and Uncle Billy up in the mountains of West Virginia need guns because there's predators, there's bears, there's banditos. And you're like, "I'm in New York. I have police. Ban guns for everyone." They look at these problems and think the solution is nationwide for everybody because they assume everywhere in the country must be a dense urban population.
Well, then the process of creating their solution, they end up inevitably causing more problems down the road. So they ban pigs, right? And then like 5 years later, they're like,
Pork
why is
prices skyrocket.
pork and ham and bacon
yeah.
everything so expensive?
So then they pass the pork subsidy and start giving out checks to people to be able to buy pork, not understanding they caused the problem in the first
But
place.
they got to ship all the pigs to China first, so we can get our pork from China, so we don't have to smell it over here.
They're like, first of all, it is an ethical abuse to kill pigs. We will only eat pigs killed on Chinese soil.
From
Then
somewhere
they
else,
send
yeah.
the pigs over there. and
like,
have them
now my
slaughtered
soul is
there.
clean.
to make this real, this is literally the conversation that is exactly happening with the gas.
Yeah, exactly.
This is literally what's happening. We have been told that we can't have an American oil supply because it's going to kill the environment. In return, we need to release 1 million barrels from our strategic oil reserve, and also we're going to keep on buying foreign oil from. We talked about Venezuela,
Yeah.
a country that hates us and is
They're
a
allies with
socialist
Russia.
dictatorship.
Well,
Like,
but empowering Venezuela is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
it's brilliant.
Today.
There was a really good Babylon Bee headline. Biden plans to sell Alaska to Russia so we can drill for oil there.
Oh my gosh. That hurts.
Well, this is the current state of America. But I do have confidence, that freedom is winning.
Yeah,
as it
human
always
ingenuity
does.
is amazing, dude. It's amazing. But for hundreds of thousands of years, I mean, we only have recorded history for like 10,000, 8,000 years. Yeah. But man, amazingly how they overcome. But I mean, you do see empires overturned and conquered, and they don't really talk about the death that comes along with that, because it's all those people died. They didn't get to write the history books. Like, it's not a popular thing to remind people about, but that's the part of this that I don't want to see.
Isn't it weird how, and I don't mean to interrupt, but that's how Biden keeps on going back to this too. Like, well, when we write the history books, how do you want to be remembered? And like that seems to be a recurring
Yes.
argument. You notice that? And like
All the time.
yeah, but
It's very Hegelian.
yes.
It's going to be really funny when in 50 years There's going to be a teacher talking to the kids in their digital, hologram class. And they're going to be like, who can tell me about the leaders of the 21st century? Ooh, me. They were vapid, self-interested egotists who are desperate to be acknowledged by us in the future. That's correct. And what do we say to that? Those people suck.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so true. They're such pick-me's. They're like, come on, future people, tell me I was great. Tell me I was
Future people.
good. Yeah.
That's really what it is.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I think. What were you saying? Biden grabbed the wheel of the car because I think he was like, I got to do this for my own posterity, and then all he's doing is ruining his own posterity by being, unqualified essentially to run the country at the moment.
You know what it is? Look, I look at Japan when the Fukushima reactors, melted down or whatever the disaster. A bunch of Japanese seniors were like, I've lived my life. I'm going to sacrifice myself to save the next generation. And these elderly people were volunteering to go into the reactors to try and get under control, and many of them died. I actually, the fixer that guided me and Luke Rudkowski into Fukushima, she was a bit older, and she was bringing journalists and people in there so that people could find out what was going on. She died of cancer.
Wow.
So these are the older people being like, no, it's fine. Like, she wasn't even that old, But these are people who are like, I've lived a long life. I'm going to do what I can now because if I die, the younger generation will survive.
They used to have to
I look at what's going out in the United States and in Europe, and it's the opposite.
Exact
It's
opposite.
old people being like, children should be restricted and put in plastic boxes so that I'm not inconvenienced.
It used to
Should be
be
vaxxed if they're under the age of 5.
Like
Keep grandma safe.
There was a
Triple
kingdom
vaxxed.
of heaven. Like it used to be that you believed that if you died doing something righteous, that you'd be rewarded. And they told us that because they probably wanted people to live like that because it benefits society if the old people will sacrifice themselves for the young people. It's very natural.
No, I think it was an emergent phenomenon. I don't think there's people who believe that religion was like powerful leaders who were like, I must trick the people into believing there's heaven. No, I think people genuinely believed that. Like,
Yeah, because you get the DMT rush at the end of life where they're like, I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
But look, it's actually really simple. Outside of any theological argument or anything like that, if you take two groups of people, one believes in being righteous and honorable, and the other doesn't, which one is more likely to survive?
That's a good point.
Catastrophe.
Because in Japan, I don't know that they're necessarily Christian. Were they? Did they do this? There's some sort of honor code apparently.
It's a very honorific culture.
Well, that's I mean,
They used to commit suicide. Like, I'm not going to pretend to be a historian on Japan, but people understand the memes about seppuku.
seppuku.
And the idea was if you failed or if you were dishonorable or something, you'd take your own life. Now, I think that's kind of horrifying, but imagine what happens then. If you have a group of scoundrels who are out for each other and are warring with each other, and you have a group of people who are like, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the greater good, which one survives in the long term?
Well, this goes back to the point we brought up earlier about education. That's why there's such an intense approach right now on the left to control what is and is not taught in government schools. And it's because you see the kids who are raised by their parents who have more of the religious backings, they're getting taught this at home. The idea that there is something beyond you in this present. There is a future that you're building for that you're not even going to see one day. Whereas if the left can take that and get rid of that in the government schools at a young age, then they're basically undoing the work that the parents have invested. And it's setting up to your point, the worldview that goes into that instant gratification without thinking of the posterity. What comes next?
I feel like the Democrat side, it's obviously not literally every person, but it's the overwhelming majority, are the people who are like, I hope future people like me. That's why they always say, you're on the wrong side of history. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm not motivated by what future people think. Imagine being someone in China in the early 1900s. Yeah, you were on the wrong side of history opposing the murderous regime of Mao and the Gang of Four or whatever. But today, you're now on the right side of history, or at least to us. I'm sure in communist China, they still don't like those who resisted. They don't like the government of Taiwan, the actual government of China. But that's the point. I don't care what you think the right side of history is. Yeah. If these die cultists end up taking over, and it gets bad to the point where horrific things are happening in this country, and I end up leaving, I'm not going to be going around being like, I guess I was on the wrong side of history. I'm going to be like, my country was taken over by psychopaths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh man, I wish I would have been on the right side of that one, because just because you lost doesn't mean you're on the wrong side.
But listen to realize how they think then.
Yeah.
There are legitimately, there are Democrat activists who thought it's not right, but it will win. That's why they decided to opt to supporting die cultism.
Well, I just want to say, if I were teleported to the future and everyone was transgender and it was a communist country where children didn't pick their identity until they were 12 years old, I would just make fun of them. I would hope they didn't like me. I would hope they didn't consider me on the
Or
the
just
right
go back
side
in
of
time
history.
and say, we got to fight for what we believe in.
Yeah, but I guess my point is there's actually an arrogance to saying I want to be on the right side of history, not just in the sense that you are presuming that you would be for doing what you're aiming to do, but also you're judging all of the past and saying, well, if we as modern people liked what you did, then you were one of the good guys. So my aspiration should be to have future people judge me well.
Yep.
Well, who says moral erosion doesn't occur in some areas?
Right.
There are
Yeah.
things we look back on as being horrible that were actually better. And there are things that we look on today as being wonderful that are actually horrible.
Imagine siding with some politics just because you think it's the one that's going to win.
Yeah, like I'd rather be correct.
Could you imagine being someone who like made very popular YouTube videos and like song parodies and then ended up taking them down because you were scared that, you know, the left would, you get banned or they would come after you, and that you genuinely just thought it's not worth fighting for these things I think are true because I'll lose. Imagine being that kind of person.
Well, people are scared too. I mean, I went up, so as you mentioned earlier, my day job, I'm a sales executive, and I do a lot of talking about business technology, cybersecurity. And I went up to Wisconsin. I was talking at a small business owners conference, and we were just talking about cybersecurity stuff. And at the very end of the Q&A, this guy comes up and he's standing there, and he goes, "Brian, you're very political, and yet you also do a lot in the private sector. How do you bridge the two worlds?" And it kind of caught me off guard because I'm there for a conversation about cybersecurity. And I was like, honestly, like at the end of the day, you just got to be your authentic self and like say, this is who I am. This is what I believe. And I firmly believe that good people will find good people and that good people will bring out the good in people. So instead of hiding what you believe and keeping that back, I think we should lead with our values, lead with our ideas, and focus on building things that are outside of the traditional mainstream, getting away from the explaining, right? Yeah, good ideas don't require force.
That's right.
Available at briannicholsshow.com/shop. And if you wanted to create a better future, the opportunity is there right now. You can start to build these solutions. I mean, I had a guy on my show, he's the CEO of a pediatric cancer research company. And they have not only created a system to get donations through cryptocurrency, but now they're using blockchain technology to help increase the research efficiencies of, you name the focus. And he's talking about how there's Chicago schools that they do research and how they were getting siloed into, I'm focusing on this project, I'm focusing on this project, and they're a mile apart from each other. They're doing the same project. They had no idea this entire time. So taking it out of these silos, putting it onto blockchain, and now creating an open environment where we can get things advance faster, research done more quick, and we're seeing more people's lives being saved as a result of that. And that's all because somebody decided, I'm going to go by my values. I think that blockchain and NFTs has a amazing opportunity to just change the game. And they jumped on that, and now they're actually making things better. They're saving little kids' lives. That's a big deal.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.